Welcome to the ID Den podcast, the show for teachers ready to step outside the classroom and into their next chapter. I'm your host, Charity Bosch, and I know firsthand how overwhelming it can feel to leave teaching behind. Whether you're exploring instructional design, navigating corporate culture, or just figuring out your first steps, this show is your roadmap. Each episode will tackle the real challenges, share practical strategies, and prove that your teaching skills are exactly what the world needs, just in a different setting. Let's turn that classroom expertise into your career advantage. In today's episode, we're going to talk about whether or not school breaks are worth leaving behind. Let's jump right in. We're going to talk about the golden handcuffs of teaching. Summer's off. This is the number one reason people think teachers have it made. Not to mention winter break, spring break, Thanksgiving week off, all the other times that teachers get the day off. A lot of times you'll hear things like, oh, it must be nice to have all that time off. But are these breaks actually the perk that everyone thinks they are? Let's start by doing some math. Let's compare the corporate versus teaching schedules. And we'll use my husband's corporate job as our example. My husband gets in a year 96 hours of paid time off. He also gets about 15 paid holidays, and that is more than most people get. So we'll say he gets 27 total days off. Let's round it down to a nice, easy 25 days, which is equivalent to 5 weeks off. Let's look at his working weeks. 52 weeks in a year, minus those 5 weeks, is 47 working weeks. He works 40 hours a week, and so he works 1,880 hours annually. Okay, so we've got 5 weeks off paid, 1,880 hours worked paid. Let's take a look at how that compares to teachers. Teachers work approximately 40 weeks per year, but the average is 50 to 60 hours per week worked. So let's meet in the middle and say 55 hours worked. You're working 40 weeks at the 55 hours, which means that you are working 2,200 hours annually. You are actually working more hours than corporate employees. The problem is the hours that you work is compressed into fewer weeks. And in all actuality, you are really only getting paid for 1,480 hours of the 2,200 hours that you are working. So while my husband is getting paid for 1,880 hours, you're only getting paid for 1,480 hours. So paid 400 hours less than he is, but you're working more than he is. And let's be honest here. Summers aren't really off, are they? You have lesson planning for the next year. Sometimes there's professional development and conferences that you have to attend. A lot of teachers are working part-time jobs during summer to make up for the low pay that they're getting the rest of the year. You have a lot of unpaid work that extends into that time. Not to mention Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, you're grading papers, you're going into your classroom and doing work. You're working a lot of time that you are not getting paid to work. So the corporate flexibility advantage is that there is, in most situations, an actual separation between your work and personal time. You are not going to have the Sunday scaries about lesson plans or forgetting to do your lesson plans for the next week. You are able to take sick days in the corporate world without having to work a bunch of hours just to prep someone else to cover your class, typically inadequately for you. Let's be honest. How many times you have to reteach a lesson that you wrote out for a sub who did not follow it or did not know what to do and did not do well, and you're having to redo the work anyways. You also have more flexibility in the corporate world to take the time off when you need it. And you get that mental space during your evenings and your weekends where you're not typically thinking about work. Now, I'm not saying that you're never going to work in the evening, you're never going to work on the weekend. The difference is its flexibility in when you work. When I did have corporate jobs, I would sometimes work in the evenings, sometimes work on the weekends, but that was my choice to because I wasn't taking time off for things like doctor's appointments for myself or my kids, dentist appointments. If my kiddo had an awards assembly, I wouldn't take paid time off to go. I would just maybe work an hour in the evening while I was watching TV. And that was fine with me because I still had all that other paid time off that I could take when I did want to take time off and not make it up elsewhere. When I started my corporate job the Monday after school ended, I thought that I was going to miss summers desperately. I thought that I should have taken time off, which I do still think that I should have taken some time off in between. But I thought, oh my gosh, now I get no part of my summer off. I'm going to have to work the entire summer. What am I going to do with all the summer off? But then I got into the job and I realized very quickly that the flexibility was so much better than I had as a teacher. And now, outside of corporate, doing my own thing, I work 20 to 25 hours a week and I make double my teaching salary easily. I can take time off whenever I want. I dictate my schedule. If I want to work at night, I work at night. If I don't, I don't. I get to choose, and that's the key difference. If you're choosing to work at night, usually it's not a big deal because you're the one choosing to do it versus having to work at night because you have to grade these papers because grades are due on Friday or you have to do your lesson planning. I can't tell you how many times, especially after I had my oldest, I have so many pictures of her strapped to my chest working in the classroom on a weekend or in the evening or over summer because I had to go in and do things, even though I technically wasn't getting paid for that time. So you have to start thinking about the quality versus the quantity of your time off. Would you rather have forced time off for those school breaks, or would you rather choose your time off? Go on vacation with your family during an off season because you don't have to worry about taking time off during the school year. A lot of times teachers are having to take family vacations during the times when everyone else is taking family vacations because there's no school. If you work in the corporate world, you don't have to do that. And I know what you might be thinking. Well, but then my kids are missing out on school. Life experiences are also important. It's okay if they miss some school. Corporate workers are able to spread their vacation throughout the year, or a lot of times I know people that will take 2 to 3 weeks off at a time and take a long break and take longer vacations and do things like that. When I was working in corporate America, I would take the 2 weeks off at Christmas to be with my kids. I wasn't having to worry about trying to work with them home or trying to find childcare for them while they were home. I just took the time off because I had the time to take off. And I didn't have any guilt about taking a mental health day when I needed it. And it was actually taking the day off when I was sick or I needed a mental health day because I didn't have to write sub plans. I didn't have to make sure that copies were made. I didn't have to go in and make sure that my classroom was set up. I mean, how many times I know I remember waking up terribly sick, sitting on the bathroom floor next to the toilet, drafting up lesson plans so that I could email one of my teammates and say, this is where you're going to find these worksheets. Please put them on my desk for the. It would take 45 minutes, an hour just to prep for being out sick while I was sick. You don't have to do that. You email in, hey, I'm sick. I'm not coming in today, taking a day. Okay, bye. And then you go lay in bed and binge watch Netflix and rest, actually rest, and not have to worry about making up work the next day because the work can wait. Whereas when you're a teacher, again, chances are you're going to have to redo what your sub did anyways. You also get your evenings free for family or hobbies. So think about that. Would you rather have a bunch of time off that isn't actually time off and where you're actually working more in a week when you are working than your corporate counterparts? Or would you rather have maybe quote unquote less time off, even though it's not really, we saw the math, but have better quality of time off and not have to worry about those things? The financial reality is that teachers often need summer jobs anyways. So you're still working even when you're supposed to be off. A lot of times districts will pay you over the 12 months, but it's not really getting paid for the 12 months. You're getting paid for your contracted work days. They're just spreading it out. Corporate jobs are going to typically pay more per hour worked than you are making as a teacher. And the benefits are often better in the corporate world than you're getting as a teacher. Not to mention better opportunities for raises and promotions. I know a lot of times companies will do tiered paid time off. So maybe you start out with a certain amount and then after 2 or 3 years, you get added a certain amount each year. And then you work 5 years and you get more added. And by the time you're working at a company for 10 plus years, you have all sorts of time off that doesn't even match your teaching time off. And think about your family time. Summer childcare can be difficult because as a corporate worker, you're not off over the summer. You're having to either work with your kids home or you're having to find care for them. I personally find care for my kids over summer. And that's still the difference there. I still make more, even if I subtract that, than I did as a teacher. Yes, I don't get the summer off, but I remember when I was a teacher going into my classroom over the summer, having to go to conferences over the summer. You don't really get the entire summer off. And usually the first month, you're stuck on your couch just trying to recuperate from the school year. So there's a whole month of your summer where you kind of wasted it anyways. And then thinking about aligning your schedule with school-age kids can be challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. But there's no more missing school events because you have to work. You're a teacher. You can't leave your classroom. I know so many teachers who have wonderful principals that will find coverage for their classes so that they can go see their kid, assuming they're also at the same school as their kid, get an award. But I also know a lot of teachers who work with principals who don't do that. Nope, I'm not finding coverage for your class. We can videotape it for you or have somebody videotape it for you, things like that. When I was working in corporate America, and as I work now as a business owner, I don't have to make that choice. I go. I have not missed any school event for my kids because I don't have to worry about that. So there are some real considerations to weigh as you make this decision and decide if the perks of leaving the classroom are enough to losing those school breaks. And you have to make the decision that's right for you. So consider your family situation. Think about what kind of time off you actually want. Again, hitting at quantity or quality. Think about your financial goals and priorities that you have, yourself, your family. Think about career growth opportunities that you would like to entertain or not entertain. And think about your work-life balance preferences. It's so easy to just say, man, I don't think I could ever give up having my summers off. And I know teachers who have said that to me, but when you sit down and you do the math, are you really getting all that much more? Having worked several years in corporate America and as a business owner, I can tell you right now, I don't miss summers off. I honestly, truly don't. And I'm not just saying that. There are some things that are nice, but you know what? If I wanted to take a week or two off, I can do that. And I can still get a break and I can still take vacation. This summer, I have taken off every single Friday because the summer day camp that my two older kiddos who are school aged are in only runs Monday through Thursday. So I've been taking every single Friday off this summer to take them bowling, to go to the pool, to go to the lake and have that time with them. I don't feel like I'm missing out. They're going to camp where they are being way better entertained than they would be if they were stuck at home with me, even if I wasn't working. They get their activities, they get time with their camp friends that they've made, and then on Friday we get to spend time together, and I don't feel like anything is lost. So that's the honest truth. Those breaks might not be as valuable as you think they are and as you are made to feel they are, especially by other people who don't understand what those breaks actually look like. Corporate flexibility is often going to provide a better work-life balance overall that is going to make those times off something that you don't actually miss. And most of the time, you're already working more hours than most corporate jobs, and your summers off narrative is just keeping you trapped. The breaks off, go back and think about your last winter break, your last Thanksgiving break, your last spring break, this last summer break. How much do you feel like you actually got to enjoy and not just be a couch potato for? How much did you actually get to enjoy and not go into the classroom or grade papers or lesson plan or do professional development? Start actually thinking about them and how the quality of those breaks are versus just the fact that you get them. And keep in mind that there are partial solutions. There are still some year-round schools with shorter, more frequent breaks. That could be a better option for you. I'm still going to tell you though, without leaving the classroom, you're still going to have all those other frustrations. You're still going to have to do a lot of work just to be sick. You're still going to go into the classroom over those breaks. You're still going to do professional development over those breaks. So keep in mind again, what are you looking for? Quantity versus quality when it comes to those breaks. A lot of corporate jobs with education companies are going to offer a better situation than what you've been in. And there's a lot of flexible corporate roles that have really good PTO, or you could even be doing part time work and still making just as much, if not more, than you were as a teacher. And there's a lot of remote work opportunities that allow you to work from home so that when your kids are on break, if you have kids, they can either be there while you work, and a lot of those companies are definitely understanding because a lot of their employees are having to deal with that, or you're making more than you would have been as a teacher, and you're still making more minus the cost of finding care for your children over the summer. So hopefully that helps you start to think through that common question of, is it worth giving up my breaks off to leave the classroom and go corporate? Start thinking about the kind of PTO that you want. Quantity over quality, or do you want quality over quantity? Make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share this with your teacher friends who are also considering a change. Connect with me on Instagram at the ID Den. And remember, your time off is only valuable if it's time off. Your quality of flexibility beats your quantity of forced breaks. And don't forget about that hourly rate. Your hourly rate matters more than your total weeks off. Make the decision that you need to make based on your priorities, not others' assumptions or opinions. When I was leaving the classroom, I remember people telling me, oh my gosh, but you're giving up all those breaks off. Yeah, but the quality of life that I have now, the lowered stress, better health, I'm way more hydrated than I have ever been now that I'm out of the classroom. All of those things are things to be considered in addition to giving up those breaks. And I can almost guarantee you, giving up those breaks is not as hard as you feel like it would be.